as an angler like you, my choice of fishing line comes down to a bunch of different factors. But when money's on the line with your choice of line, like with Bradley Hallman, who's a professional bass guy, it comes to be a little bit different, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You've been with Sunline, which is probably a brand that's a little bit new to a lot of the fishermen readers. What made you come over to Sunline, and how long have you been there?
The first opportunity I got to get on with them, I definitely knew I was going to take it. I had been using it for years. When it first came to America, some of the Japanese guys that I was friends with that were using it, I competed against, like Takahiro and some of those guys. It was like a drug deal at night. Like I would go over just to try to get my hands on some of it, you know. And they were very giving of it, you know, and Aaron Martin, some of the other guys, Tommy Biffle. So whenever they started kind of sponsoring some of the guys, I had friends that I was able to get some of it from. When it first came out, man, it was expensive compared to what we were paying for. The big deal with Sunline for me back then is that the beginning processes of fluorocarbon, it was hard to find one that you could set the hook on and your fish wouldn't vanish on a hook set. So they were having some problems with the processes, a lot of different companies, and they were coming out with them, and there was a big difference in brand names. Just because they said 100% fluorocarbon on the side of the package didn't necessarily mean that the quality of the line was going to be what you needed for the shock impacts.
Gotcha.
Sunline was able to capture that goal at a very high rate at a very early time in the beginning of fluorocarbon.
Gotcha.
I couldn't get that out, but yeah. So the 100% fluorocarbons weren't all designed the same, and it really mattered in our tournament fishing. So Sunline has always been one of the very best fluorocarbon line companies, and therefore it was night and day, right? When we went from mono to fluorocarbon, just fishing in team tournaments like you would see it, you'd have the same jig tied on, a guy in the front of the boat and the guy in the back. The guy in the front should be catching more, and I mean, it was 7, 8, 9 bites too.
It's just that hook set. Is it the hook set, or is it the...
It was really, you know, they talk about the fact that you couldn't see them, right? The fish couldn't see the line. They talk about that. I don't know how much of it is that. To me, it was the direct contact, the fact that fluorocarbon doesn't float like monofilament, so you have more of a direct contact to that bait. And if it's a bottom bumping bait, it really affected the action of that jig to where it acted more natural on the bottom. It's not just a jig, but anything that was laying on the bottom, it's going to give it a more natural presentation to where monofilament's going to float everything.
Sure.
Right? And that was a big part of it. Whatever, between the two, whether they could see it or it was the live action that it was giving to the bait, it was a big difference in bites.
It's like in our saltwater, guys up in the Northeast always talk about the idea was fluoro is a little bit better around rocks and everything. It's more abrasion resistant, so there's a lot of, and everybody's got their own opinion on that. But you looking at it specifically like that, I mean,
there was a lot, even more qualities. The fact that, yeah, it was more abrasion resistant and things like that, but it also has no stretch or less stretch, much less stretch, which equals a lot more sensitivity on the end of that rod of what we're feeling when we're around those rocks. And feeling those rocks is how you feel to get bit, because if you're not feeling tunk, 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 you don't ever feel the tum, tum.
Yeah, right, gotcha.
So that's a big part of fishing, whether it's saltwater or freshwater.
So what's new from Sunline that you like?
The very thing that we have right now, this year, Tornado coming out in 2022 ICAST that we just released, is the new V-Hard. This is a leader material. This is the finest, like the ultimate, right? So if you're looking for like the really upscale ultimate leader material, a lot of us in bass fishing with our spinning equipment have gone straight to braid. Get away with the wind knots, more castability, longer cast, more sensitivity.
Sure.
But we can't tie braid straight to our finesse baits in clear water. So that's where you guys live. So this would be like in your market for sure. Everybody that's drop shot, and this is a big deal.
Gotcha.
But this is the ultimate leader line. It has the new plasma rise technology to it. Don't ask me to explain that, but I know they're very high on it. It's a lot slicker, more abrasion resistant. I mean, you can feel it. When you pull this stuff out and you feel it, I mean, it's really, really, really nice, slick stuff.
That's great. And that's coming out. We'll see that in the...
They actually have this at some of the retailers right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
So that's the Sunline...
V-Hard, Tornado V-Hard.
That's awesome. One quick question I always like to ask a professional on this. You're connecting your braid to your fluoro. What are you using? How are you doing that?
I've done it a lot of different ways through the years. I will say that I have gone to the ultimate FG knot.
Is it? That's it?
This last off season I went to it, and that's what I'm using.
Awesome. Bradley, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.